In this video, we decode the single most critical metric for endurance performance, your lactate threshold. First, let's bust a myth. Lactate isn't the enemy. It's actually a potent fuel source for your muscles. The burning sensation you feel isn't the lactate itself, but the associated hydrogen ions that accumulate when your body can no longer clear that metabolic waste as fast as it produces it. In sports science, we look for the crossover point, where the rate of appearance, $R_, exceeds the rate of disappearance, $R_D. Staying below this tipping point is the definition of metabolic stability. We actually have two thresholds, LT1 and LT2. LT1 is your aerobic threshold, the point where lactate rises slightly above baseline. This is your all-day endurance pace. LT2, or the anaerobic threshold, is your maximum lactate steady state, MLSS. Crossing this line starts a ticking clock on fatigue. Most generic training plans only talk about threshold, referring to LT2, but knowing the gap between these 2 points is what separates elite physiology from the average runner. Without a lab cart and blood pricks, how do we find LT2? The gold standard field test, popularized by Joe Friel, is a solitary 30-minute time trial run at the hardest consistent effort you can sustain. You hit the lap button 10 minutes in. Your average heart rate for the final 20 minutes is a highly accurate proxy for your lactate threshold heart rate, LTHR. This number is far more reliable for setting zones than any formula based on age or max HR. Finding LT1 is simpler and relies on the ventilatory threshold. Because your body buffers acidity by exhaling excess CO2, your breathing rate spikes exactly when lactate does. If you can speak in full paragraphs, you are below LT1. If conversation becomes choppy and requires pauses for breath, you've crossed into the gray zone between thresholds. For marathoners, raising this LT1 floor is often more valuable than raising the LT2 ceiling. Training at your threshold is a double-edged sword. It provides the highest return on investment for improving lactate clearance and mitochondrial density, but it generates significant central nervous system fatigue. This is why elite runners follow a polarized approach, spending huge volume below LT1 and selective, surgical sessions at LT2. If you spend too much time kind of hard in the middle, you get the fatigue of threshold work with only the aerobic gains of easy running. Finally, let's connect this to race day. For a 10K or half marathon, your race pace sits right at that LT2 red line, managing the burn. However, for the marathon, you cannot sustain LT2. Your goal is to have your marathon pace, MP, sit as close to your threshold as possible without crossing it. A narrow gap between your current 10K pace and your marathon pace indicates excellent aerobic development, while a wide gap suggests you need more volume at LT1. Thanks for watching, and keep your data practical.